Hey, everybody. I actually started this about 1 minute before 5 just to give folks a chance to get on. Okay, and I'm still 1 minute before 5. So I just was anticipating that I would have some kind of issue because for some reason I seem to be the worst technology person ever. So I do apologize to some of you who are here and ready and waiting for what said 2 p.m. I know it's 5 p.m. and I had it set for 5, but somewhere along the way in my head, I thought YouTube was looking at things from a Pacific Standard Time. And so I let the 2 translate into 5. So thank you for those folks that are still bearing with me that were waiting with bells on at 2. So I saw who you were and hopefully you got my message that we're starting now. So, okay, so I am so excited. I see lots of great folks here and in the chat. And I did have a question also that was asked, so we'll just toss that out first. Someone had asked about how do I know who's in the chat? Because for the secret story giveaway, that's one of the things that I ask you to do is to just share that these are happening. Once I get started back on my speaking engagements, then that's really what I've tried to build this for, with a great recommendation from Tara Settle to do this. I am notorious for running out of time at conferences and sessions, no matter how long they give me. I'm always greedy because I've got so much more that I want to fill up a teacher's bag with so that they really can troubleshoot in the classroom. So you give me an hour, I'll go an hour and a half. You give me 2 hours, I might go 2 hours and 10 minutes. So all of that to say, having a place to come back and reconvene on a regular basis in between all of these conference engagements or speaking opportunities at schools or in districts, it gives me more peace of mind that if there are lingering things that I didn't quite wrap up, they have a way to toss that out. And also along the way, hopefully I'm filling those gaps and those little nooks and crannies in with these shots, these little boosters for Phonics on steroids every Sunday. So all of that to say, the question again was, how do I know if you're in the chat? And I don't know how I got from what I just said to that, but anyway, the way that I know this is as you're chatting, and I'm actually going to do it a little bit differently today than I had done, but I screen capture, cut and paste before I close it out because it's a little unpredictable. Sometimes it disappears. So usually after we're done, I've seen it stick, I've seen it not stick. So I screen capture or cut and paste all of them. Then I place them in the top pin post of the comments in this video. And so that's how I know who's here. Today I have a little bit more of an organized way beyond that's going to nail down the winner so that it's not just, my daughter doing this to the long list of cut and paste. And I don't really know why I went off on the tangent that I just went on about running out of time, other than to say that you guys are kind of the first group I think that was my connection there. You guys are the first group that I'm doing this with. I expect once I get started and start speaking again, because I began these right after my speaking schedule ended, that these will be more full. I'm thrilled to have 150 or so folks joining us each night or on the nights that, are well attended. But I'm hoping that number is going to be intermittently larger and kind of coming and going along with my schedule. And so since you guys are really sticking with me and kind of helping me do this from the ground up, right now that screen capture way is an easy way to do it. I'm not sure how long I'll be able to keep that up as things start to shift. And so I'm just going to kind of play with it as we go. And I am expecting that once the speaking starts again, the format of some of these might change a little. But for now, that is how I'm keeping track of it. So I see all these great comments. And I will tell you again, the trick we're going to use for tonight later. But you can always access these comments, like I said, in that first comment box pinned. Okay, so tonight we've got some cans of worms that we're going to start to open. And like I said, I see some awesome comments, questions, and things kind of coming on. So I will absolutely have time at the end to go through and touch base on some of the things. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in. I can scroll back up and get to those. And what I want to do first is not just welcome you, but recap in about one sentence where we were headed last week. Because I wanted to give this really kind of special prize away, and that's the bingo. to you all tonight, because like I said, you're kind of the first group on board with this before these officially have gotten underway with the speaking in the conference awareness. So I wanted to do this now because you are here and a lot of you have been bearing with me since the first time. So this is the third. And it's a biggie. So what I'll do is I'll be posting the link for that bingo in the box, the description box for the YouTube video, and that will be posted immediately after, or at least within a few minutes after we finish tonight. And it'll be there for about 30 minutes. So that will be for everybody. And that's just to thank all of you. And the recap from last week, the reason I mentioned that is this really wasn't where I wanted to head necessarily, straight into play-based learning from where I was headed in terms of what I kind of planned out doing. I had started last week talking about secrets make things important to kids. But if you really open that up, what that means is, anything that makes skills, abstract skill content important to kids is all in the same vein. And certainly play, games, activities, songs, all the things that are part of a child's world make things important to kids. So under that umbrella, it fits. So even though I do want to veer around next week and the week after that on the brain science specifically and what pieces of that we can use to kind of lure in our little guys who would just as soon keep their shoe in their mouth and, lick their neighbor than listen to us talk about what a case is. So if we're going to compete with the shoe licking and the fuzz on the carpet, we got to have some great tricks up our sleeve, and brain science just hands them to us lock, stock, and barrel. So that's where I want to head. And in keeping with that idea, we're going to take not really a detour, but we're going to hone in on something that we can certainly get a lot deeper into when we start talking about the music piece. But right now, that piece on a bigger level is play-based learning. Seeing what children do naturally, what they would do if they were left alone with one another without any, computers or phones or distractions, and just watching how they engage, how they learn about their environment. This is really where we become the epitome of developmental appropriate. So while the secrets may arm learners with skills that seem so far beyond anything that they could do at that age, unless you beat it into their head and skill and drill them to death, that's actually the opposite of what the secrets are. The secrets actually, and this is the opposite of brain-based learning. Brain-based learning is half the effort, 10 times the gain. So secrets are in that vein. You're getting far more to show for far less exertion. And by exertion, I mean, sight word practice, repetitious reading of the same line or the same story every single day, so that on Friday there's a hope and a prayer that they might actually be able to read it with an 80% mastery. That's a lot more work and a lot less developmentally appropriate than honing your instruction through play. And again, play can take a lot of formats. Now, tonight you're going to be downloading that bingo, and we'll talk a bit about that too. So you have kind of a heads up on how to start playing with it. Although you all are my guinea pigs, because you will be the first teachers to play with it other than those that created it. And of course, we all know when we create something ourselves, our perspective sometimes can blind us to where there might be some holes in its use. So you will be downloading it before anybody else even gets to buy it. And I would love your feedback. So we'll talk a little bit about kind of throwing out how you're going to start playing with that. But it's the same concept that we're going to be talking about tonight with all play-based learning. And again, it's mirroring what kids do naturally as they explore and take in their environment. And the reason that play, and I'm going to I have little notes here. I don't usually make notes, but there were a couple things I wanted to make sure that I mentioned about play. Play pulls kids into the learning. So we often jump up and down like a clown putting on a show, again, to compete with the fuzz on the carpet or, playing with Julie's hair that's sitting next to Veronica. It's hard for us to sometimes maintain that level of engagement if it's incumbent on us to be the entertainment to pull the interest. That's like candy. It tastes good for a few minutes, but it really doesn't last that long. So you can only yell and scream and do shout outs and word calls and chants and all that really awesome stuff to kind of prime the activity or the learning. A little bit of that can go a long way. You can't continue that stimulation overload on an ongoing basis. And certainly, the third grade teacher is not going to be doing that. She's going to expect kids to bring their need to learn to her. As early grade learners or early grade teachers, we want to instill the need to know in them, because we know they're not naturally having this interest in our concepts, our instruction. So all of that to say, play is the perfect lure. Play naturally piques the interest of a child. It offers open-ended, or at least it should, the kind of play we're talking about, the deeper level of play where the brain really has time and space to take in and generalize what's going on, what concepts are being being kind of on the, I guess, on the radar, and how those concepts relate to other things. Play pulls in learners, and it allows them the kind of brain room, or the time and space needed to ponder, to tinker, to generalize, to relate, to see connections. And sometimes the connections they see oftentimes aren't the ones necessarily that we would use to delineate instruction. Or to define our instruction. Kids come up with all kinds of creative connections to what they see. They're amazing. They absorb like a sponge. Their interpretations are what sometimes can really go out of the box. So the way that they're most able to really engage on a deeper level, or take in at whatever place they are, the skills that we are trying to give or to impart, is to give their brain the time and the space to do that. During instruction, their brain, when it's direct instruction time, when you're in a guided group and you're trying to teach a skill, and then you're trying to measure the skill, and then you're trying to assess their mastery of the skill, their brain is, it's like a soldier going like this. I mean, they've got a duty, they need to perform it, and they're on. They are focused and engaged in the task of giving you what it is you're trying to measure, what you want. That's a whole different mindset, literally, than a play-based mindset. So a play-based mindset, you get the same engagement and reinforcement. Well, you don't get the same engagement, you get much greater engagement, but you get the same ability to reinforce, but you get to do it on their level, at their pace, at their time, and in their space. And a lot of what I'm going to be sharing in the next blog post, actually, you're going to get a blast that's going to have something that an amazing teacher sent me, that she just did something that I thought was kind of just a profound, and I didn't want to mush it in with this bingo reminder, but that's going to come after New Year's. And then after that, that's going to kick off some really cool ways to play with secrets that open up to playing with all kinds of reading, all kinds of stories you're doing, all kinds of writing activities. Some of them are called things like they're just so cool. Spontaneous combustion, flashlights, lasers, kid blocks, who am I, four corner to center, cell phone pockets. Really neat ways to angle your learning in a play-centered way and amp up that ownership. And that's where I'm going to come full circle before I kind of get into and focus on this bingo piece. I mentioned at the beginning that secrets can appear at the surface level to be far beyond what we would think a learner could do at 5, at 6, at 7. And yet they are the most developmentally appropriate, child-centered, play driven instruction comparatively to what we think of as our reading instruction, our letters, our sounds, our patterns, our sight words, our practice. That is not what secrets are. So it's deceptive. And if you're a teacher who's ever gone to a conference that either with me or heard any of the other teachers that talk about secrets, or if you're a teacher whose principal was at a principal's conference and maybe sat in a session and then came back to you and told you about the secrets, at first glance, it can be off-putting at the earlier grade levels, because it looks like someone's trying to jam down your throat and the kids' throat skills that are sitting on grade levels 2 years past what you have to do. And what you have to do is enough, because you're already pulling your hair out trying to teach the L. So I get that at first glance it looks like that, but alongside this play-based learning, I'm hoping to open up eyes of teachers that don't already understand the secrets to what the secrets are really built on, what parts of the brain we're actually targeting with the instruction, the way the secrets are wrapping around it, and that it's the epitome of child-centered learning, not the antithesis of it. And I only toss that out because I was on a Facebook group. I try to stay away from those because sometimes they just drive me crazy when I see things and I don't ever know whether I should engage, because I hate to see teachers struggling with something, but I also sometimes feel awkward to toss out something that might help if I'm connected with it. So this particular one, it was a group, and I think it was a parent that was posting, and they were talking about, oh, I know what it was. It was free range learning. Now, initially that gets a bad rap. If you've seen some TV shows, that's where kids kind of free range parenting. They kind of, the concept in a smaller realm, I like that kids are driven, learner driven instruction, but within a context that there's a structure there, so that there's like bumper cars where there's a track, you can only get too far, this way or that way. So we can focus the learning and maximize the concentration of what we want them to really get from it. So all of that to say, this parent was saying that it's such a shame that kids that are 5 and 6 have to be inundated with all these letters and all these sounds when really what they just want to do is play. And I just thought how sad that is, that's viewed as two mutually exclusive things. Play can occur around anything. And I don't necessarily call sometimes we call something play, and what it really is practice wrapped up in a sheep's clothing. And what I mean by that is, I can decorate the flashcard with glitter paint, but I'm still flashing a flashcard at a kid. So we can call that, glitter flashcard play, but it's still me flashing a flashcard at a kid. Or we can, highlight our sight words. And I don't mean to just pick on sight words, highlight your letters. We can highlight things in different colors and do different things with them. And surely that does make it, more palatable. But play is really, it's child-centered. It's the way it's open-ended. It's not got a set ending. It doesn't have a way that it's supposed to look. It's a track that kids have flexibility and freedom on, but again, within the rails of the parameters, that is the structure that you are giving them. And you'll see that with the bingo, because that's a great example of what I'm actually trying to say. So I'm only going to talk for about 3 more minutes, and then I'm going to get to some questions, because I don't have a lot of notes for tonight, other than I just wanted to hit where this bingo falls into, how we make learning important to kids based on this recipe that the brain science really gives us, this perfect path that's so easily carved out for us if we just, notice where it is. So we said play pulls kids into learning, gives kids the time and the space, gives the brain the mental time and space that they need to not just capture and increase automaticity with the skills we're reinforcing, but also to see those generalizations, to let your mind wander, to start noticing how things come together and the relationship between whatever the activity or the play they're doing is, and how it actually fits with the word that's on the calendar that we saw today. Sometimes kids don't see what we want them to see in the moment that we teach it, but things incubate, they sit on the periphery. And when the brain has enough time and enough space, and there's some processing power that's not being, immediately put to use, yes, they're playing a game, but brain, when we're playing, when we're singing, when there's songs, it's non-conscious learning. Non-conscious learning means we got a lot of processing power that's open for noticing, for observing, for pondering, for hypothesizing, it's a playground for critical thinking at whatever that learner's level might be. So in that through that lens is where I view the most valuable use for play. It all centers around the brain's need to know. Did I win? Do you have the card? Did you get it right? I know the right answer. That's not, I know the secret. Let me tell you, since you didn't know that was right. Need to know is kind of a perfect driving force, because when we, and we mentioned this before, but when kids make generalizations through this open-ended play, when they're playing and they're letting their mind wander, and those are those magical moments where you're listening to their conversations while they're engaged in something and they don't know you're eavesdropping, and you hear sometimes the most amazing, profound things that you maybe didn't even think of to mention during a lesson, and out it comes from the child that you might least expect it. When you hear things like that, those types of generalizations of skills that can just naturally happen as kids are exploring through play and doing games. Usually, when you're generalizing around a skill concept, it's, what is this for? What else can I do with it? What is it? All of the things that we're trying to do when we're exploring, when a baby is exploring a toy, all of those things go to need to know. It all comes back down to something that they have enough of an interest in and are motivated to engage with, to need to know something. Is it soft? Is it hard? What does it taste like if they put it in their mouth, which unfortunately they still will do in kindergarten sometimes. So those are the driving pieces. And if we know it all goes to our need to know, that's kind of our ace in the hole as we're creating or structuring these games. Some of the ones I mentioned were created by teachers. Some of the ones that were mentioned, I created. Some of the ones that were mentioned are takeoffs on other games that you can kind of rip the lid off and then up the ante and really twist and make more three-dimensional kind of challenges for kids within the game. So speaking of those three-dimensional challenges, the bingo is a lot like something that you actually have through music. Everything, because we're looking at this from different angles, we're angling our instruction, we're really kind of staying pretty close to home. We're just using different facets to engage kids, because different kids have different, levels of enjoyment for different things. So the bingo is similar to the musical brain teasers. Now, if you know what those musical brain teasers are, and those are what's on your CD, and if you don't have the CD, there's a link in the description that you will be able to read. And by the way, if you could, I found out it is important, if you like, and preferably subscribe as well. But if you like for sure the video, that would be very helpful. Apparently that allows for certain things to happen. Like it gives me the ability to put some other links and do some things through this channel that then open up the door for you to do some bigger chats. And it's based on, I guess, things like that and hours watched. So anyway, all of that to say, when you're looking down in that description, after you click on that like button, you're going to see some links for things I talk about. And one of the things that I wanted to mention are these musical brain teasers, because they can give you a way to see the parallels between those and then the bingo and another little game I'm going to mention. So the musical brain teasers are ways for kids to flip, flop, twist, and turn what they think they know to see if they know that they know that they know it. And it's very open-ended, because with a musical brain teaser, I might do something like ba 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 ba, and the kids have to go B, or I might say B says, and they go B, or I might take it up a notch and do Beethoven blends with a blend, blah 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 blah. Now they have to go BL, ST, or I might reverse it and go ST says, SL says. So either I give the symbol, they give the sound, they give the sound, I give the symbol, we flip things around. I can make it harder and say SPAU, and now they have to put that together and give me SPA. Or I could say sping, 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 and they have to come up with the blend and the secret that go together. I might even put two secrets together. But as you're seeing, it's flexible. It's open-ended. I can give them the symbol, they can give me the sound. I can put blends together. I could put a blend with a short vowel sound together. I could give them the just the sound, and then they have to tell me the letters, or the letters and they tell me the sound. I can add two secrets together. I can make it as easy or as hard as I want. I can work from a reading or a writing perspective. If I go blah, 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 and they have to say BL, that's what a writer would have to do. That's the way writers have to think. I want to write the word blah, blah, black, blah, 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 BL. I want that instant automaticity so that they can focus on the story they want to tell and not on what two letters do I hear at the beginning of that word. So the music deepens the ownership for automaticity. Now, if I want to reinforce the decoding, I might say BL says, and they have to give me back blah, because if they go blah and they see BL, that's how fast I want it. If they see BL, blah, that's what I want to come out fast. Now that's easy because it's just the blends. Like I said, I could add a vowel to it. I could say the vowel should be short or long. I could add a secret. I could put two secrets together and say THAY, and they have to go they. Or I could say they, and then they have to give me THAY. So you can see all of these different kind of twists and turns, the music version of this bingo on the link that you'll see. And that just gives you an idea of what the goal of the game here is. With the bingo, you're going to see a one-page sheet for directions that gives you some basic ideas to start playing, but then you can take it home and do what, and by take it home, I mean take it like, hit the ball out of the park, home base, and start really making it your own and being creative. So you can give a story and then they have to identify the letters that make it. You could give the sound and they have to put the little pin on the right letter. They can give you the sound while you're doing the story. There are two versions, actually, a level A and a level B. The level A is going to be a simpler version, although you might use level A with fourth graders who are new to the secrets. The level B is a little bit trickier, but you might use it with kindergartners who know the secrets like the back of their hand. So you'll be able to kind of, again, totally open-ended, but you'll be able to maneuver and use it based on what you're seeing your kids doing and liking and enjoying enjoying. So it's completely there for you to really kind of fiddle with and experiment with and use the suggestions that you see, and then please give me more. And also let me know if there are holes, because anything that you do in the classroom, especially when you're the first ones to do it, and I'm going to use these Sunday secret times often for this, you are kind of the guinea pigs in that, you know what you do and you know how things work in your classroom. So when something is needing to be tightened up in some way, often until you have 25 kids in front of you, you don't get a real feel for it. So I think it should be pretty foolproof, but I'm absolutely excited to hear your ideas. And again, watch those video clips, watch how flexibly manipulative that musical play is. And then that's the mindset that you want to bring to these secret story bingo cards. Now, I do want to give a disclaimer. If you're watching this and you do not have the secret stories, you will have one heck of a time trying to use those bingo cards. And basically the reason is your kids can't breathe underwater. And that's not a slight at all to your kids or what an amazing teacher you are. It's just that you probably are teaching a classroom where you have a set scope and sequence, and that scope and sequence has designated what parts of the code you can teach. And it's very right on in a world where you can't breathe underwater, meaning in a world where it could take forever to teach a K, you do have to slow down and chop things up and divvy it out over 3 to 4 years. But you have to remember that those of us that are using the secrets, or anyone that taps into brain science for any purpose, gets to cheat. And if you cheat, you don't have to play by the same rules. So if these aren't skills that kids have to learn, but they're secrets that kids want to know, and they're secrets that align letter behavior with kids' own behavior, then kids get a leg up by default. They already know what a letter is going to do, likely because it's the same thing they would do in that position. That's how they know what sneaky Y says. That's how they know about OUOW. That's how they know about AUAW. So they have this back door that we're slipping skills through, which means with the bingo cards, they're going to have access to things. They're going to have access to the whole code, and therefore they can start playing with it. And like the music, raise the bar with it. Start really flipping and flopping and twisting and turning it. Now, you could be a high performing first grade student and you would pretty much be lost trying to use the cards in the way that is explained, or even trying to do the musical Brainteasers that you'll see in the link as explained, because you're asking them to play with skills that they not only don't own deeply, but they probably haven't yet been introduced to. So, and again, that's when you want to step back and ask yourself, well, how are they reading and writing every day? What are they reading and writing with? Do my kids only have 12 letter sounds and 20 sight words? And if they do, how are they going to tell me what they did over Christmas break? How's that going to work? I couldn't do it. How in the world could they do it? So, that's a whole nother level of questioning that you can start looking at. But it is a different world with secrets versus without secrets. Kids who know secrets and kids who don't know secrets. So I would advise you, they say, don't try this at home. Don't try this in a classroom without secrets, or your kids will just stare at you like you've lost your mind. And your teammates will too, because it's going to look, again, very developmentally out of whack with what anybody would expect a 5 or 6-year-old to be doing. And on that note, there is another link in the description, and it is a link that I plan to talk about a good bit later. It's not something I've ever done. I never thought to do it this way. I usually limit my skill practice to downtimes, like the singing we do when we're lining up, or we do when the lunch lady's late, or we do when the music teacher's not there, because there's so much opportunity to use the secrets to actually read and write across the entire day. So, I don't usually have like a skill singing time or a skill practice time, because all day long is a skill practice time if it's a secret that unlocks the text, because we're using them constantly. But having said that, there's an amazing teacher who did something unbelievable with the secrets, and I had to share it, but I'm going to talk about it later. The only reason it's linked to your description is I wanted you to see the breathing underwater. I want you to see what kindergartners look like when they defy reality based on the laws of the land that we know, and when it's an inner city school, when it's a Title I school or high poverty school, how when kids don't have to play by the rules of going through the front door and they sneak through the back, what they're actually able to do. And when they're able to do what you're going to see them doing, then you do start asking yourself, why am I dragging this scuba tank around? In other words, why am I memorizing all these sight words? Why am I memorizing the word her and how and the and or? We could just read them. And that's a lot of stuff you have to know to be able to read those words, but not going through the back door. So that's why I call it breathing underwater. You can see what breathing underwater looks like with kinders who are breathing underwater. And we'll be totally, these games will be almost less of a challenge than they should be probably for that group. I actually got this person's test scores as well. So I'm going to be posting that too before the break is over. So you can look for that as well. But it's a clip that's been up on Facebook, and there's going to be a blog post about it. Okay, now I am going to go ahead and start looking at some of the things that you might want to ask me. And I see so many things up here, and I love that I've got folks in here answering other folks' questions. So please, 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 anytime you see something that somebody asked or just tossed out, if you've got something you do that you know that you play around with in your classroom that would work, toss it out. I mean, I learn as much reading what you do as hopefully you learn from reading what other folks do. So please don't hesitate to answer a question. I love that. So I see lots of great ones here, and I'm just looking to see if I can hit some bigger ones because I don't want to take up a lot of your time on the holiday. Okay, I love the excitement level of the kids. I love hearing that, seeing that. There was also a post actually that went right along with last Sunday's work. Somebody sent me a video clip and was talking about the kids in her, I think, kindergarten class, and how not just excited they were when she would tell a secret, but when they would see one or when they would get new kids who don't know them. And I can't remember the context, but I remember she said she wasn't in last Sunday's or the Sunday before's group, but she said verbatim some of the things that we were talking about. So I'm going to see, I can try to post a link to that too, but it was on the Facebook page, and it was from kindergarten. And I just thought, boy, I wish I would have had that to play last week. It was about the secrets, making things important to kids. Okay, just started using them. Oh, yes, I was at that conference. That was an awesome conference. The Illinois conference, I think is that where they had me listed as working with 5th through 9th grade, and I had all those high school people in my session. Might have been that one. Has anyone introduced these to kinders in the middle of the year? Heck, I introduced them on the last day of school even. And I don't mean wait, but I mean, I've done district workshops where teachers don't get them until literally the last week of school. Every piece of the code they have is one more that they didn't have before you gave it to them. And if you can tell kids in 5 seconds about, ow, the secret about OU and OW and how they play rough and somebody always gets hurt. Oh, and then why OW is pointing up here, because superhero O is their all-time favorite superhero ever. And if he ever flies by when they're roughhousing, they will always stop dead in their tracks and go, oh, because they absolutely love him to death. And kids need that default, because not just ow as a sound that these letters can make. That's not the only tool they need under their belt. They need to know what to do with words like blow, flow, glow, slow. So if I just tossed out something like that in 5 minutes, and maybe I might do it because these are social emotional connections that mirror kids' own behavior, you don't always have to do it in conjunction with text. You could do it when Johnny smacks Susie. Or, well, hopefully he wouldn't smack Susie, but let's say he smacks Jimmy and they're buddies and he smacks him and Jimmy goes, ow! That might be a great time to let those boys know that there are 2 letters that are a lot like them that actually get in a whole lot of trouble for doing exactly the same thing. And let me tell you a story about them. So there's all kinds of, you can bounce this. You can have it come out because it's connecting to these social emotional behaviors that drive, by the way, kids' behavior every single day. It drives their decision-making every day. How do they behave? Why do they behave? What should they do? What shouldn't they do? Those same mechanisms for making those decisions are what they will use to navigate unfamiliar text, because they will see these patterns as they see their peers in the classroom. Who's good? Who's bad? Who's sneaky? Who doesn't listen? Who can't have peanuts? Who always sits together? All those types of tracks for memory are the same tracks, those well-laid tracks, those deep in the gut, already there, built connections. Those are the pathways that we're going to just be taking advantage of for these skills that they've never laid eyes on before. And we get the bang for the buck of the road mileage traveled on those tracks long before we ever laid a secret on top of it. So last day of school, toss it out. Halfway through kindergarten, oh my word, toss it out. When you look at the link that's in that below in the description for those kindergartners breathing underwater, she did that in October. It was just, I even was floored because I've just never quite seen it done like that. It's just not how I did it. But again, there's so many ways. because it's not a program. So there's no right way. These are tools. You make them your own and do with them what you need to do, with the idea that kids need as much access to the code as quickly as they can get it. But that was done in October. So if in that 2 months, and that's kindergarten, and she'd actually never taught kindergarten before. She's always been a first grade teacher. So when she started kinder, she really wasn't sure how to temper what she did with kinder. And we spoke briefly, and I just said, do exactly the same thing and just monitor, watch and see. The only slowdown you're going to see is application. Stories are stories. You can tell the story of Cinderella to a 3-year-old, 5-year-old, or a 15-year-old. It's the way they interpret it and what it means to them, and how they make those generalizations to what's happening in the story. That's what changes and shifts. So be mindful of what you see them, how their wheels are spinning, and then watch for when they notice how to put that key in that door to use the secret to unlock this word, or to try to write the word in the letter to mom. So all of that to say, you get a good gauge for where you can get and how far you can get in that short time period. And half a year is the world. I mean, the world's your oyster with half of kindergarten left over. I introduced them to another class during RTI in the middle of the year. They soaked them up. Yeah, it made a difference. The higher up the kids go, to me, the more fun the secrets are to teach. So it kills me when I see that they're, their kindergarten thing, their first grade thing. No. They're in anybody who can't plow through unfamiliar text thing. Anybody that has holes in their ability to attack text and enjoy it. Anybody who just wants to write a story that they want to tell and doesn't own the words they need to do it, or at least needs to be able to reread what they wrote so that they can move on with the story they want to tell. It doesn't necessarily get you on grade level if you're a kid who can't read in 4th grade, but it gives you everything you need to get on grade level. You will become a reader because you'll have what you need to read. And then the reading is the best teacher. The writing is the best teacher. So it's not that you can plug holes and immediately gain back 4 years of lost time on text, but plugging the holes is the key, because we have kids who are at the upper grades don't ever get those holes plugged. It's like they pack up a suitcase, and whatever they leave home with in 2nd grade at the end of the skill introduction of phonics, that's what they have for life. So whatever's in that suitcase better be enough to make it through for the rest of their journey, because nobody goes back to teach other than, of course, in a pullout. They don't ever get a full day of really manipulating access to the skills that they never got. So the secrets eliminate the need to practice something to death. The practice comes in the form of using it to read, using it to write. You don't have to practice what makes sense. So they don't have to practice it as a skill. They get to understand it, own it, and then practice using it to read, using it to write. And that's not hard to find time for, because we read and write all day long across the entire instructional day. What we don't have time for is practicing skills for skills' sake. That we just don't have time for, and especially as they move up into the grade levels. So I love that with the RTI. And I know RTI is different from reading intervention, but depending on the grade level, RTI can apply to, kids that are obviously a little behind, but not necessarily looking at, high level grades. Any grade level where you've got kids who can't plow through text, you want to plug those holes, give them what otherwise they're not going to get as they get farther and farther away from the early grades. Okay, let's see. Sounds like, I'm really hoping they soak them up. During writing time, they're finally asking me how to spell certain sounds. Yeah, if kids ask you that, if they say, how do I spell the word turn? All you have to do is say, well, what sound are you trying to spell? Well, I got the t, but I don't know the Oh, you don't know that sound? So, okay, look up at the secrets. Do you see anything up there that goes, and poof, there's their choices. And then experience with text is what's going to fine tune those choices. Because initially, don't be surprised in kindergarten or with ELL kids, ESL, they could spell bird with any of those 3. But as they can read, which if they can know that it says they will, the reading is the best teacher. And it takes on average with 100 IQ based on the studies, 3 times actually reading a word like bird, a 1-syllable word, to know that IR is what looks right versus you are in turn that looks right. Now that's assuming they can actually read the word, that they can go to no. If they can read it, it takes a kid with an average IQ of 100, approximately 3 reads to recognize visually that of the 3 that you are goes with turn or that IR goes with bird. So you don't have to be too picky about that initially when text experience hasn't yet had a chance to kick in. The writing samples on the website, I mentioned that last week, those demonstrate that. You can look from grade to grade or time frame to time frame, of course, across the course of the year, and you'll see completely different error types. You'll see the fine tuning that occurs as the reading and the writing again, the more the code you have, the more you can read and write, because the more you have to read and write with, and then it's like that snowball. They start reading and writing. Words are everywhere. Text is everywhere. They can't turn it off. And that's when the learning really starts to take off, because they have more and more and more and more of the bare bones skills they need to make words make sense, and to maximize the time you're reading and writing every day in the classroom anyway. So it's all built in. Play-based gives them time to make connections with their peers. Oh, absolutely. And that's the other missing piece here. We don't have a lot of time for kids to make connections with their peers. Half the kids who don't know their 100 sight words have to miss recess completely because they still have to work on their 100 sight words. Kindergarten's the new first grade. First grade, forget it. It's like third grade now. I mean, there's just the whole joy of early childhood, and for those of us who go into it, you could call us saints, really, because we are exhausted. If you're not 23, you're probably just dead by Friday. I would fall asleep at 7 o'clock in the evening. So it is a calling, like the priesthood is a calling. But you got to love it, because if you didn't love it, you would die a slow and miserable death. So loving it, though, doesn't mean that we want to teach fifth grade skills to kids trapped in little baby bodies. It means we love learning through play. We love teaching and not necessarily knowing where things are going to head. We love the exploration that goes along with that. We love children. We love children being children, not children being stuffed with stuff that they don't understand what it is, what it's for, and what it does. And we're the stuffers of them. And if we want to do that, we might teach ninth grade algebra. It'd be a lot easier. We wouldn't go home so tired. Kids could just figure it out or go away. You don't even have to decorate your bulletin board. So the joy that comes with having an ability that lets kids play to reinforce those skills, it's just like this win, 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 win. You can only take play so far if you don't own what you need to play with. And that's why I was saying, if you don't use the secret stories, or if you don't have access, it's not the secret stories are really what I'm trying to say is the point, other than with the games. If you don't have access to the whole code, you don't forget owning it enough to play with it. You don't even have knowledge of it. So you couldn't engage in that way. But if kids have knowledge of this accelerated knowledge of the whole code, so they have more that they own that they can bring to the table to play with, then these little play spots that you can kind of pull in throughout your instructional day, it takes on a life of its own. And it's just learning in disguise, deeper, stronger, better learning often than what you might get through direct instruction, because you can break up your day with it. So the value is in it's not just inherent, but it's intense with the play. And it brings things back to where I think most of us want them to be, that today they seem gone from, which again is the wonderment of working with these little minds and getting to dive right back into that head first. And yet know that when we are diving back into it, it's not mindless play. Yes, they are interacting with their peers and they're connecting and building the social awareness and cues and interaction, but they're doing that with some meat on the table that's part of that social meal that they're having. I know there's not a lot of analogies buried into that, but it's killing so many birds with one stone. And that's probably what killed me with that post I saw about, why do they have to learn all this when they should just be playing? Those things can be merged together to become the most powerful brew for a classroom. You just want to really look at the depth of the play and who's driving it. And if the need to know is at the goal of the game there, because that's what really maximizes the instructional density and the instructional value of those play-based moments. No administrator would ever walk into your room and question anything that they would see when they observe play in that form, because it would be mind-blowing for them to see and hear and observe and listen to the conversations that are occurring. You could have an administrator question, why they are just, let's say, passing balloons back and forth. But if you turn that balloon game into something, and that's actually one of the things I'll be sharing in a blog post, that balloon game can become like just a through the roof activity that is mind blowing to those that expect kinders to only have or own, this many skills. So it's all in the recipe. It might look like a cake, but some cakes have a lot more in them than others. And that's where we want to head. And again, brain science just takes us where we want to go with that. We just have to kind of use it to mold our way. I see Tara talking about the laser, which I love. That's a whole nother thing. We couldn't use lasers, but flashlights are a great substitute. If you can use lasers work much better. That's something else I'll be opening up and talking about when it comes to some of these games I mentioned. Fun idea, laser, child trying to tell me the story. Yeah, and I like that too. Whether you're telling the stories, they're giving the sounds. Another child, says, "Who am I?" And they have to tell the story about themselves, pretending they are the letters or the secrets. Kids have to guess who they are. I love four corners and center. That's a whole nother kind of twist on that concept. But you're moving from the why to the what to the how. So, why do the letters say what they do? What is the story that explains the reason for it? What is the sound they make because of it? And where does that go? And what is it for? One other quick one I will tell you, just in keeping with having things on the first day of school. One thing, if you're using secrets, that's really helpful for kids to nail down. Not as helpful if they don't know secrets, because then it's on the surface, just a basic differentiation. But it's, duck, duck, goose, you can play consonant, consonant, vowel. Now, the reason consonant, consonant, vowel is important on the base level is if they know secrets, the vowels have a lot of power. And those vowels are the eyes, ears, nose, and throat of every word. So just like a doctor checks those first, if something's not quite right, kids who know secrets know that if something's going on, the vowel's probably behind it. Something's going wrong or going on with those vowels. There's a post you can see called head bop. If you just type head bop into the search bar on the blogs, you'll pull up a post that kind of gives you a feel for how much power those vowels can have beyond just the fact that they're superheroes. And kids need to know right from the beginning, really, well, which ones are the vowels? Because it's nice to know vowels have this power and I should check them first, but how the heck do I know which ones they are? I just learned the D yesterday. So vowel, consonant, consonant, vowels, just like duck, duck, goose. At the base level, the kids are going around and they're going, C, B, L. So they're just tapping the heads of kids that are, as they're walking around the circle, one kid, that's it. And when he wants the kid to chase him, he goes, A, or I, or O, or U. He has to say a vowel. That's the cue for the kid who's hopefully listening to, first of all, notice that was a vowel, because two things have to happen. The kid who's it has to know the difference between consonants and vowels. And the kid who gets tapped has to know, hey, he just said a vowel. That's his cue to chase him. And if the first kid gets back to the open spot in time, then the other kid is it. If the first kid doesn't, then he has to be it. Or without the kids playing, I can't visualize that. Now you can take that up a notch and have them use words. And that's fun to do like mid-year, where instead of saying C, B, D, A, they have to go kangaroo, cow, horse, apple. So if the word starts with a vowel, then they have to know to run and chase. You can also do words with secrets. That makes it even harder, because then they have to really listen and segment mentally to know that I just heard the word, play, and there's an AY there. So you might have like target secrets that is the secret. Maybe just like one secret that's the target secret. That's the goose secret. So and again, so many ways, so many open-ended ways to play with this. I could give 1,000 more, and I will. There's around the world. There's just so many things that can focus your effort on, whether it be the spelling, whether it be the sounds, or whether it be just the stories themselves and the culprits that make the sounds in the stories. Don't know why I got off on that tangent. I just want to make sure you knew about, I remember one more thing. The duck, duck, goose, or the vowel, vowel, consonant. Think about the value from kids that know the secrets to kids that don't. If you know the secrets, that's incredibly helpful, because it lets you know which ones are the vowels, so you know who the superheroes are and who to check first when things aren't going the way they should, so you can bend the sounds. Now, if you're a kid who's doing a letter of the week, and you have 17 sight words under your belt, plus, let's say by Christmas, 12 letters, sounds. Does it really matter if you know the vowels? Because first of all, you may or may not know both the long and short sounds for the vowels anyway. And even if you do know the long and short sounds for the vowels, you may not know about the triggers that make them long or short, like mommy, E, or babysitter vowels, because babysitter vowels is on second grade's plate, except it's not babysitter's vowels. It's vowel, consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel, open syllable, closed syllable. So with all that stuff, what real use is it other than just academically for kids to know that's a vowel, that's consonant? See, with the secrets, it's all about the reason for its use. It only survives because we need it for this. We got to have it for that. So the reason kids need to know which ones are vowels and which ones are consonants, it's the same reason doctors need to know where your eyes, ears, nose, and throat are. So that if your leg is hanging by a thread, they don't look at your leg, they look in your eyes to see if your pupils are dilated, because if they are, you're going into shock and we need to get you to hospital. So yeah, eyes, ears, nose, and throat are the best windows into what's going on with a patient. A, E, I, O, U are best windows for what's going on with a word when all the secrets that you've used aren't working. So with all of that to say, it's just interesting to think of what we teach and when it's purely academic because the book says we should, but we don't really know why and it doesn't really help right now, versus when we actually teach it and kids have what they need to connect it, power it up, and put it to use to play. So that's really the difference. It's all about your context. It's all about where you are on that continuum of ownership of the code. That dictates how important and how meaningful a lot of this stuff is. And then the games just give kids a way to start playing with that, start tinkering with it. Kind of like the way a mechanic takes apart a car and puts it back together just to confirm that he owns this, he's got this, he can really kind of look at this from every angle and know how to really make it work and make it his. Link will be added for freebie. Yes, I'm adding the freebie. If you're just tuning in wondering where the heck is the bingo freebie, you'll see a placeholder link for it in the description under the video. And as soon as we're off, it's already uploaded. It's going to be on TPT, but it's not going to be live until I close with you. Then I'm going to go in, I'm going to turn it on for free. It'll sit that way for 30 minutes and then it's going to be off again because I have to write up the description and I'm not quite ready to post it for sale yet. When it goes for sale, I think it's going to be $10. It may be slightly more, but it's going to probably be about 10 and it will probably be listed for sale sometime in the middle of this week. So you want to make sure when we're off, give me just about 5 minutes and that's when you'll see the link posted in the description. You'll also see the winner of this posted in the description. And by the way, I'll just tell you now, the winner is going to be the 30th comment. And the reason it's the 30th comment, I have no idea who the 30th comment is, but it's December 30th. So I was baffling my brain to try to figure out how to do raffle copters when you're here because I don't want you to leave here to go there. And I didn't even know where there would be. So I thought that was a good idea. I'm going to flip it around every week. But for today, whoever the 30th comment is, that is the winner. And the only thing I want to toss out there is I know some folks watch from, Malaysia and China and just all different places. And having just shipped a kit to Malaysia, it's really, really expensive. It's actually as much as the kit. So not exactly, but so if you are out of the country while still you can win, you may be asked by the office to pay shipping if you're out of the country and it is that, that high, but at least it's still then the free kit or whatever it is on the site that you wanted to use. I have my own classroom recently ordered Portapix. Okay. Yes. Portapix. If you have your own classroom and you ordered Portapix, and you might especially be tempted to do that after reading a post that you're going to see come out the day after New Year's. Those are awesome, but those are to dig deeper into what kids already know. So much like what I was saying about the games, if kids don't know the secrets, the Portapix are going to be limited use. So first of all, for you as well, because you have to have the book. The kit is what you need. And the kit is any of the ones that are called kits that are the book posters and CD. The kit is the staple. So the Portapix are supplemental to that. Those little flashcards are supplemental to that. You would never, never, never want to order a supplemental piece because if you do, the problem is, well, if you were to order, let's say the flashcards, you're not going to be holding up the one they need when they're going about writing a story they want to tell, or when they're trying to read a book and encounter a word that they need a sound for. So those visuals have to be up in total, all there and easily visually accessible so kids can get what they need when they need it for their own individual purposes. They can't be flipping through a key ring grouping of words that's up on a table. They have to have access, constant visual access. They will use these throughout the entire instructional day. So you don't want to be the keeper of the secrets. You want the kids to have access to the secrets. Now, having a way to bring the secrets down into the kids' hands is key. And that's really a whole nother piece that part of these games are going to go under, which is secrets off the walls, giving kids a chance to play, to feel, to touch, to use, to own, and to handle, and to connect these with what they're doing in the classroom. And that's where the Portapix come in, and that's where the flashcards come in. But if you're ordering or if you have ordered, there's every disclaimer we could think of to put on the site that tries to encourage folks not to accidentally get the supplemental pieces before they have the actual kit. So you know how to do what you're doing. If I have here that someone thinks it's Amy Mitchell that's 30th, and Amy practically owns, I think, every single thing there is. So I don't have, and I know this because she actually purchased something before we even listed it up on the site. So when they were doing a test run for, I think it was the new flashcards, and the corporate group was trying to test the payment system, they said, a sale just came in, and I was like, they aren't there yet. So she got I can't even remember how they said it, but she bought something that hadn't been produced yet on a system that wasn't in place yet. And it was just the funniest thing in the world. So I was going to her district shortly thereafter, and I got to tell her that. So I don't know if Amy did win or not, but if she did, that's funny. I made the mistake of hanging only the posters I thought I would need in kinder, only to find out they needed others too. Oh, I'm so glad though that you knew that was a mistake. I love that, because some teachers never figure that out. And I don't know why, because if you see kids using constantly the ones that you've got up, and I've actually had some teachers tell me, yeah, they keep asking me for more, but I told them that we need to slow it down. Even they've even gone, one teacher said they even went to my cabinet and tried to get them out and then sneakily look through them so they could find the ones they needed for what they were trying to do. And I said, not yet. You're not ready for that one yet. It's going to be next week. Now, see, that's where we put ourselves right in our own way. Kids know what they need. They know what they want to write. They know what they're trying to read. And they get the concept of a key unlocks a door. Doesn't matter what the key is or what the door is. They just get, hey, I got the power to get in there. I just need the right key. So we don't know what the right key is. And our textbook companies don't know what the right key is. I read Nell Duke. And typically you'll see this. You'll see there should be an explicit systematic order to instruction of phonics skills. Yes, there should be in the world where you can't breathe underwater. Meaning, if you're going to spend 3 to 4 grade level years divvying out these skills across all those grade levels in a scoped and sequenced manner, you need to have them laid out in a sequential order so that nobody drops the ball along the way. Second grade knows what they've got to cover. First grade knows what they've got to cover. That is the track on the bumper cars for the secret stories. Your scope and sequence are the tracks to make sure you stay in the lines, but you can take it all the way home. They need much more than what the slow, intractable pace of introduction is in your kinder reading series or your first grade reading series. They need as much as possible, as soon as possible. And if you have a way to literally give it to them without even having to teach it, why wait? Why wait? That should just be the new catchphrase this year for teachers. Why wait? Why wait? Give it. Just give it. Why wait? And then let your scope and sequence be the anchor to make sure, yep, I did that, I did that, I did that. They've got this, they've got this. Heck, they've even got this, this, and this on their scopes and sequences. So that's your track to stay as your measure, but don't let it hold you back. Don't let it hold the kids back. Don't make the kids have to break into your closet to find the secrets they need. And if they do break into your closet to find the posters that they need, recognize that's awesome. That's awesome. That means you've done a great job setting up what a key does to a lock. And they already know what doors are locked. And by darn it, they know where they can get those keys. That is such kudos to the teacher that had that situation. The problem was the first thing then she wants that she should want to do is give them access to that. So I love, Amy, that you noticed that they needed more. And again, just remember, you're not a waitress that's going to force these things upon them. I had secrets up sometimes. If I had a class maybe with a lot of ELL learners, there might be a few secrets that just never came up. Like, it wasn't typical, but like OUS, that might pop up when you're reading, the word joyous at the holidays or ridiculous in a Junie B. Jones book. But, typically that's in bigger words. And so in kindergarten, because oftentimes things come up and that's what then prompts us to need to get through the locked door to read that word, to write that word. That's where we get the most mileage out of certain keys. So, and although something might have come up, when I say come up, I mean, maybe we didn't really get to hone it, use it, get much mileage out of it. So, and that's okay. Just because the poster's up doesn't mean you've got to organize when you're going to make sure you cover all that. It's just there. So it's ready for the moment that it's needed. And you may not be a part of that moment. You may have nothing to do with that moment until you look at that, until you have a writing conference with that child and you see that they have been sticking their finger in the coleslaw that you put out on the buffet but hadn't yet talked about. And by darn it, they're already digging right into it and finding need for it. So that's what you want. That's that learner-driven instruction. Okay, and I'm going to try to wrap this up so that I don't take up any more of your time. I teach third grade. I went to a conference in Detroit. My class was so low. I say, yes, they enjoyed the secrets and all scores have improved. Yay. Okay. My glasses are here. I want to say your name right. Okay. Mercy Jones. I would love for you to reach out to me in an email because I have so much awesome content to share and paint pictures for primary grades for teachers to see how and what and when and why things look the way they do. Upper grade teachers, I have so much less. And what I have often is in pull-out settings, which you may be as well, which is fine if that's the case, but it requires a lot more than to show different angles of learning. So I would love to get you to turn your phone on sometime and capture some of those conversations or aha moments or little leaps that just occur when you least expect it, and maybe reach out to me. I can be a little more specific, but I would love to be able to paint things in a little more clear way, video wise. I see so many upper grade and even high school teachers that tell me the stories about what they see, what they do, but getting things in a tangible way that can be easily shared with teachers who feel much more or much less comfortable with those types of skills, how to read. I think that would go so far to really give them the confidence to jump in. Okay, so please reach out to me, Mercy. I've read recently, decor is too distracting for students. Okay, I don't know which decor, if you just mean decor in general or the red. There's a reason for the red, although now there is a non-red version for those that were just so adamant about the red being a problem. Red, from a brain-based perspective, allows for the highest rate of recall. It's actually 3 times higher rate of recall when you have black on red with primitive icon-based visuals. So if you remember a long time back, they used to have baby toys in black and red, and finally we all decided that was just way too ugly to, no mom typically wanted to decorate her nursery with black and red. But that maybe wasn't as, it was the adrenaline, the spurring of a heightened state of awareness is what the red produces. And the reason it's important for the secrets is we want that paired with the visual acuity of the pattern. We want those patterns to stick, like an icon, like McDonald's, like Target. Kids know icons, they recognize icons. Most of those icons have a red background and they're primitive icon based. They're not detailed. There's a reason for that. So half the goal of the game with the secrets isn't just to know the sounds the letters make. It's to see them coming in text a mile away. When kids see words, we want them to see secrets in those words so they can immediately decode those sounds and then get on with taking in that story. We don't want kids to miss patterns. So we want them to naturally see it as a hunk. That's why you can teach a secret before they know the letter sounds. You're doing the Better Alphabet song every day, but that song takes about 2 weeks to 2 months for kids to own all those individual sounds. But along that time, from the first day of school, you can toss out a secret. Secrets actually take no time for kids to learn. Now, they may not apply it right away, but they can learn a secret the minute you tell them. Whereas the individual letter sounds have to go through muscle memory. So the reason secrets can take hold is kids don't have to know an A and a U to know A-U-I-W, go ah. It's like Johnny and Sarah go ah. They don't see Johnny as Johnny and Sarah. It's an entity, it's a thing. A-U-I-W. So we want it to cement in that way in the brain. If you don't like the red, there are those decorative squares. That's what I was holding up with this. They're in different colors. I actually ripped this one. This is one of the prototypes. The ones that are in the packages are a little bit thicker, not too thick to laminate, but thick enough that you're not going to see this. This is one that I had just made for me when we were looking at different digital graphics and colors. So that's another option for you. But at the end of the day, I hate to just be frank, but decor is not the goal of the game is kids becoming extremely strong, capable readers and writers. So luckily, red is the thing. If they said it has to be purple with lime green stripes and god awful gray, I still would do what it takes to give kids the most access as fast as possible to everything they need to do what I'm going to want them and demand them to be able to do in the classroom. So, we're just lucky that red is the worst situation. And again, it'll be interesting to see without the red background if that time frame is delayed for the recall. We haven't had the colors produced long enough to measure the results on that. I think because they're used so frequently throughout the day, it won't make a big difference. But if you're in a pull-out classroom and you're the only person with the posters up, in that scenario, you've got much less limited time for visual recall. So, there's where the red might be more useful. And actually, those rooms usually have the placards anyway, the Space Saver placards, and those only come in red because they're smaller rooms. So those placards are smaller in size. Okay. I use them as well. Traveling to another room, it's still valid. I use the Portapix. Oh, okay. Yeah. The Portapix, again, if you're not using them in the classroom or the other teachers aren't in the classroom, you're the pull-out teacher. Or if you're in the classroom and they go to pull out, Portapix are incredibly helpful for that because they do let the kids basically take your wall with them so that they can access things when you're not there. When you use these, it might turn out that you don't need a lot of your other posters. Yeah, Elizabeth, that is such a great comment. I cannot tell you, 3 times a year, I will see an email that comes in that says, I just don't have room for these posters. I have to have my birthday bears, and I have to have my whatever, like weird things, like not like even anchor things, like color words, like just strange things. And I'm thinking, you're going to be underwater all day long, and you've got 85 scuba tanks strapped on your back, and you don't want your kids to just be able to breathe underwater so that they don't need the scuba tanks? I mean, the one thing you need to really dig deep underwater is to have the ability to breathe so you can stay under there longer and do more while you're there. So if something is the mainstay of what you do across the entire instructional day, that is going to be worth its weight in gold. And you don't necessarily, have to use many of the anchors we have in our classroom up constantly all day long. You use math ones during math. You might use science ones during science. You might use color. I like color. I always had color anchors, but I mean, you want kids to have access to the code. The common denominator of all that we do comes down to being able to engage and interact with text. So one of the best comments I ever saw was, I use the Secret Stories posters are the most used tool in my classroom. Kids access those more than every other anchor we have combined times 5 every day. And I loved that because I thought that's secrets are always there. They're always teaching. Kids are always using them. It's not a set time where you do secret story time. It's all day, every day, all the time. And you can measure that by watching what the kids do and what they're using and how they're using it to do their reading and writing. So there would be no reason, whether it's decor or whether it's space, there's just never a reason not to give them that lifeline they need to be able to do the work underwater that they're going to be doing all day. But Portapix, if you don't have room, if you teach in a closet, if you're on a cart, those Portapix are absolutely a great replacement to having them up on your wall. One teacher got creative and put them on the ceiling, and it looked awesome. It was a great idea. Haven't got the data back from her as to whether or not the kids go home with sore necks, but we'll find out. Gestures that go with each sound also help so much, especially for the vowels. My kids make the gestures as they sound out the words on their own. The kinesthetics are so important. Yes, 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 yes. And strangely enough, the vowels are the only ones that have a required gesture. The other gestures are natural with the sound, kind of like, if I'm going to stop my car, I'm going to go, Arr! So I'm not saying to the kids, put your hands up, put your foot on the brake. It happens naturally as a result of the familiarity of that social experience. Every secret is buried in something that's real that kids experience or have experienced long before they ever came to us. That's where we get the weight of familiarity and ownership. That's why they feel like they've known the secrets all their lives, even though they just got one today. It's because what they have known all their life is the behavior that drives it, because it's the behavior they have. So I don't want to be inconsistent, or I don't want to confuse anyone and think that there are motions that go with each secret. The motions that you might see happen with each secret are the direct result of the social or the emotional experience. Again, like with ow, I always grab my arm. Someone else might grab their leg. With the, for instance, when I think of being in love and being embarrassed, I just think of kind of like the little cartoon heads down, body shifting. Other kids might have a different, actually there have been some interesting interpretations of this one at the upper grades. So, whatever comes out naturally becomes the dramatic gesture. Now with the vowels, it's different because the vowels can't be acquired through muscle memory, even though they're individual letters. There's not enough lip position, tongue position variance for kids to really hook in and hone into those. So they have dramatic actions that land them in the hooked vowel sound. That's a blog for another time, or a Secret Sunday for another time, because that deserves its whole own time frame. But those are key. So those little cues, those gestures are absolutely key. And you certainly can use gestures to prompt kids to make any of the secret sounds. But I don't want any teachers that don't know what the secrets are to think, oh crap, now I have to learn all these gestures too. So I got to learn that I go like this when they see an A, or I learn. There are not gestures that you have to learn. They are organic. It happens because it's what naturally would occur for anybody that's engaged in that behavior, with the exception of the vowels. And the vowels have gestures. They're still organic. They still would naturally occur, but they're key to prompting the sounds, giving kids a way to get instant hooking into the sound without hitting, by the way, the landmines that you're dealing with an early grade learner, which are auditory processing, articulation capability, just even focusing enough to try and distinguish the differences between assuming they can even control their mouth to do that. So you don't want to have to go across that landmine field. You want to take a backdoor route where there are no landmines in sight, like the little old lady who can't hear and goes, eh? Or like, who has to go to the doctor, but he doesn't want to touch the yucky stick because he thinks that people had it in their mouth before and he saw how they're throwing up all over the floor. So he won't touch that stick with his lips, tongue, or teeth. He always goes, ah, ah, ah. And that's key, because if they go, ah, it can turn into short U. So they've got to think, ooh, yucky stick. The doctor might have forgotten to throw it away. And thinking things that make sense to them, that are meaningful to them, guarantee you the result that you want. So again, it's all in hooking into what their familiar understanding and experience is, and not saying whatever you're saying 25 times and trying to drill it into their head. So meaningful is relative. What meaningful means to us versus them is often very different. Okay. Sticky glue on the back of my posters. I let it dry so my students can pull them off the wall. When we are talking about them, I have them eye level, so access. I love that. That's a great idea. If the sticky glue starts to become a problem, there are, and you'll see this in the off the wall post that's going to come up later, or you can even see a little bit of this in, actually, there is a post, Tara Settle did it. If you just type in the word gas, sorry, Tara, not that Tara has gas, but if you type in the word gas, it will pull up on the blog. There's the search box. Type in the word gas. I think that her post was called something like the gas that makes your learning, the gas that makes the learning go with your reading program. You will see all kinds of creative ways to use secrets off the walls, not taking them down from the walls, because if you're using a sticky glue, which is called E5000, I don't know what that is, but it sounds really neat. If that starts to give way and wear out your posters, there are some alternatives to that were just real eye-opening ways to pull them down without actually having to remove the ones that you've got on your wall. So I don't know if I missed anything. I'm always torn between answering. You're welcome, Tara. I'm always torn between answering all the questions and taking up your precious time. So I don't think that I missed anything that was not somehow hit one way or the other. But certainly if I did, please, please, please let me know. And you can just post the question again next time. I do see one thing that I saw. It's about an old kit versus a new kit. If you have an old kit and you're wanting to get a new kit, or you're hesitant to get a new kit because you already have the old kit, there are schools that actually buy odds and ends of pieces on top of their kit to have resources that you can make with your old kit. So for example, you can take the posters from your old kit and you can put them together and make a big book that kids will literally fight to the death to be able to take home, because taking home the secrets is a huge deal, as you'll see in this post that's going to come out the day after New Year's. If you've already cut around them and you're thinking, well, how can I make a book out of it? They're all different sizes. All you do is just get that bigger construction paper and just mount them all on that, and then laminate it, and either put those key ring clips in, which hold up better than stapling, or you can, if you have a binding machine at school. But taking that big book of secrets home is key. And your actual book you can use as a parent checkout resource. There are so many schools that will purchase an extra book just to give to each teacher, so that during parent conferences, if you've got a kid that moves into the school year late and they need remediation, or you've got a kid whose parent says they're already ahead and they can read like things that your class can't read, and how can I keep moving them? Help yourself. Feel free to tell them more secrets faster than I'm getting to. They're all right here. You can tell them what you want and let them start going to town. So it's a really great tool to have for parent checkout resource, your book, and the posters for a big book. And then that way you don't feel so badly about getting the new kit, because I will tell you the new kit's completely different. As of 2016, the book was expanded, totally shifted around so that you have entire sections that are completely user-friendly with a graph, a grid of where to start, like a map. There's no more kind of searching through. I almost feel like when I wrote that, I must have looked like a crazy person, because it was a stream of consciousness book. Um, when I go back and read it, it's like anytime you read your old writing times 10 from my perspective, because writing is just not something I am. I write like I talk, so you can imagine what a mess my editing becomes. So all of that to say, you will see a completely different book, expanded, tons more information, and even some extra add-on secrets, which I'm actually looking at doing an upload for, so that you can download a few little twists and turns to add to some things that I think would also be useful for you to have. And that'll be also its own Secret Sunday. So don't miss a Secret Sunday, because there are going to be things like this coming out. And I always try to make sure you have access to it for sure during that time. And if you do miss one and you miss something, and I'm able to kind of work with you, I will try to. With things that are big like this bingo, it's such a huge file. I don't even have a way to email it. It took forever even just to upload it because there's so much to it. So it's not something that's easy to shoot out, which is why I have to do the turn on, turn off thing on TPT. Anyway, I appreciate all of your questions, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. But I will be, remember, whoever's number 30, your name will be in the description below. And Amy, if it's you, I have no idea what in the world would be useful at this point. Maybe Amy can do her own giveaway, and if it is Amy, and then look for the link in the placeholder below. It will be posted within the next 5 minutes. It is 6:15 right now, so it'll be up until 6:45, and then it's going to be gone. So please make sure that you get that link, access it, and grab it then. And it should be up, like I said, within the next 5 minutes. So thank you so much, and I hope I didn't forget anything, but I cannot thank you enough for tuning in. I start traveling again after next week. And so after that, these will take on a little bit of a different tone, but I appreciate you learning with me and helping me learn how to do these and how to hopefully do them better as time goes on. So thanks so much. Have a great New Year's. Stay safe, stay warm, and I will see you next Sunday at 5. Bye-bye.